Hello and welcome back to Four Dudes Talk About U.S. History, Season 3, Episode 3, the final. Today we're going to be talking about the New Deal Coalition. And first, we're going to be talking about Roosevelt's second term and the election of 1936. In 1936, millions of voters owed their jobs, mortgages, and the bank accounts to the New Deal. Many African Americans who had readily voted Republicans since the Reconstruction switched their alliances to the Democratic Party, and they all kind of owed it to Eleanor Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's wife. And as well, in 1936, the Republican nominated Kansas Governor Alfred Landon as their presidential challenger. He wanted to free the spirit of American enterprise, but he just couldn't convince the voters to do so. So Roosevelt won that election by 60% of the popular vote.
Holy crap.
Dang, Daniel.
So, the New Deal that we've been talking about finally ends. In the second inaugural address, Roosevelt addressed his kind of despite in the progress climbing out of the Depression. And he said many Americans were still poor. And this is a quote from back then. "I see 1/3 of a nation, ill-housed, ill-clad, ill-nourished. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have too little." So, in the election of 1936, the Republicans nominated a guy from Kansas who was their governor, Alfred Landon, as their presidential challenger to the Democrats, right? He wanted to free the spirit of American enterprise, but he could not convince most voters the change that was needed. Roosevelt won by 60% of the popular vote. Also, what was happening around this time was the court packing plan. So, the New Deal was popular, as we all know, but the Supreme Court didn't really think they liked it. So, in January 1936, they declared the AAA, the Agriculture Adjustment Act, and they said it was unconstitutional. There's many cases pending on the Social Security and the Wagner Act, which meant the court might strike down all the other New Deals. Roosevelt was very, very mad. So, after his re-election, what he did is he tried to change the court's, like political balance. He sent Congress a bill, and this bill would increase the number of justices and allow the president to appoint an additional justice. And with this justice, so if you have not served 10 years and did not retire within 6 months of reaching age 70, that's what the bill is for. But if the bill was passed, they would not have allowed Roosevelt to appoint up to 6 new justices. So he was kind of in a chokehold by the Supreme Court. But the court packing plan, as they called it, was basically a huge major political mistake. Southern Democrats feared the new justices would overturn segregation, and the African American leaders hated it because they worried future justices might go against their civil rights. But they thought the plan gave the president way too much power, which is another negative. And the Wagner Act and the Social Security Act, many hated in the South.
Yeah. Alongside with that, Roosevelt's problems just continued going along. In early 1937, the economy seemed to be recovering from the Depression. The industrial output was pretty much back up to what it was before the Depression. So what Roosevelt did was he told the WPA and the PWA, and he said, "We're done giving funds out to people just for free." Unfortunately, this was horrible timing because this was when the first Social Security taxes were being taken out of paychecks and stuff. So it was $2 billion that were taken out, and 2 million people were just they didn't have any work anymore at the end of the year. Some of the leaders of the WPA and the PWA came up with this theory called Keynesianism.
Oh, his name, man.
So basically, what Keynesianism is, the government, they should be spending a bunch of money to start a recession to jumpstart the economy. At first, Roosevelt was like, this is not a good idea to just start this spending stuff again. And some critics even agreed with him and said that the public was becoming too dependent on government spending on these people. But in early 1938, with no recovery from this bad thing that happened in sight, Roosevelt finally asked Congress for $3.75 billion from the PWA,
Billion.
the WPA, and a bunch of other programs.
So Roosevelt supplied the country with a lot of stuff, it sounds like, to
Yeah.
help us out, right? Another thing he did that was really good is he wanted to provide housing for the nation's poor, which is really good because at this time especially, there was a lot of homelessness. Oh, Brody, before you get going, I have a fun fact for everyone. Mary McLeod Bethune was with, no idea. But anyways, she was the first African-American woman to head a federal agency. And she was friends with Eleanor Roosevelt.
Right, you can't even pronounce the name.
Well, yeah, but it's a fun fact.
All right.
We need
So
to give credit to our queens.
I'll dad you up on that. Like Braden was saying, homelessness was a real big problem back then, and Eleanor Roosevelt knew this because she was going through poverty-stricken areas all across the rural South and Appalachia, and she just wanted to fix this. So she told her husband, who was the president, that he needed to help fix this. So he helped by making the National Housing Act, which established the United States Housing Authority. And so it kind of just raised $500 million to help pay for loans for builders who are willing to make low-cost housing. And Roosevelt also sought to help the nation's tenant farmers, who are just farmers that don't own the land. They just rent the land. And during this area, they couldn't, pay for the land. And they were getting expelled. And it was almost 350,000 American farmers were expelled from their farms when landlords just kind of took their land back. So the Congress made the Farm Security Administration, which would kind of help farmers buy the land instead of continue to rent it. You know what I mean? And the last thing that kind of ended the New Deal that he put in the New Deal was the Fair Labor Standard Act, which abolished child labor, limited the work week to only 44 hours, and set the very first minimum wage at 25 cents an hour.
So, like most stuff that happens, everything leaves a legacy. So the New Deal left a great legacy in the country. And because of the Great Depression, there was a major turning point in American history. The economic crisis of the Depression led to the New Deal, which fundamentally changed the relationship between the Americans and the government. But because of the Depression, the power of the federal government, of course, like the government always does, intervened in the economy significantly.
Braden, did the New Deal end the Depression?
No, the New Deal did not actually end the Depression, but it did give a lot of Americans a stronger sense of security and stability. So I wouldn't say it ended it, but it did help a lot for many Americans.
Well, I think that's the end. It's been real.
It's been fun.
It's been real fun.
No, it hasn't. Well, that's all we have time for today. It's been real.
It's been fun.
It's been real fun.
No, it hasn't.
Why not?
It hasn't been real fun.
It's been real fun.
It hasn't been real fun.
It's been real fun.
That's not how the quote goes.
But it hasn't been real
Yeah,
fun.
it's
It's been real.
Toodles.
It's been real.
It's been fun.
It hasn't been real
Dude.
fun. What do you want me to say, man?
that's it. I leave. I'm putting my book down.